Alrighty, I think it's time for something fun. If you saw my last video, How to Have Fun in Destiny, then you know what I care about most is having fun in this game. I like finding those builds that are a perfect medium between trying and chilling. I don't want to lose all the time, but I also don't care about winning so much that I'm beholden to the meta, so today we're going to explore our first fun build of this indefinite series. Today we'll be pairing weighted throwing knives with Athrys's Embrace, and an interesting roll on Smite of Merain, which notably just got a nice buff to its damage in a recent patch. I tested this out on PS5 and PC, and I'm excited to share it with you. Hey, wait a minute. You think you already know about Athrys's Embrace? Well, no shit. Everyone already knows about this exotic. I'm not here to share news with you or convince you something is broken and a secret and holy shit, you need this build to win. No, that's boring and shallow, and I'll let other YouTubers capitalize on the clickbait game. I'm here to help you push yourself a bit and try some unique things in Destiny PvP that you might have overlooked. I think this might help you take a breath of fresh air from the meta, let go of your attachments a bit, and find something different to enjoy. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about having some fun with these goofy, bouncy knives. My favorite thing about Athrys's Embrace is how you can find a build you like with it and then just never take it off across PvP and PvE. It can stun unstoppable champions or just kill guardians in one hit to the body with very generous tracking. I think this makes it a great choice for new players to invest in, since once they get a nice stat split in their Athrys build, they can use it in so many different activities and have a good time and do well. At the same time Athrys is a solid workhorse for PvE, it also has such high potential for thrilling moments in PvP, and it's genuinely a moderately competitive choice for winning. As you probably know, if you have Athrys equipped and the heavy throwing knife equipped on Solar Hunter, after you land 3 precision hits with at most 2.5 seconds between each precision hit, your knife becomes charged up with this perk called Strengthened Throwing Knife. Strengthened. Your knife becomes charged up with this perk called
Strengthened Throwing Knife.
You can extend this duration by landing further precision hits while the perk is active, and every one of these subsequent precision hits will add another 5 seconds to your timer, up to 30 seconds maximum. While the perk is active, your knife can body shot in PvP rather than needing a headshot to kill, and it gains a second bounce with greatly increased tracking, so if you let it bounce twice before it gets close to a target, it'll probably hit them. Also, while this perk is active, you can stun unstoppable champions, which is quite nice, and the knife just does a ton of damage itself, so it's great for chunking beefy adds or killing them outright. Now here's the thing, once you get a kill, your Strengthened Throwing Knife perk goes away and you need to reactivate it with more precision hits, and while that isn't hard, it can be hard to charge up another knife as quickly as you're able to have this perk up and rolling. I've been using this build a lot lately, and I've noticed its main limitation is whether or not you can keep getting knives, not whether or not you can get 3 critical hits. To briefly talk about the armor, I think high resilience and high mobility, and of course 100 strength, are the most important parts of this build. Obviously high recovery is always nice in PvP, but if you need to forego other stats to hit 100 strength, high mobility, and high resilience, I think that's definitely worth it over recovery. Here's my reasoning. You want your knives to come up as often as organically possible with 100 strength, obviously, and you want to easily recharge your knife when available by dodging within 15 meters of an enemy using Gambler's Dodge. You always want an arc class item so you can equip double outreach, which will get you more melee energy while dodging for those times you dodge and you're not near an enemy, and you could also consider using melee kickstart if you make your arm element type stasis. But as for the high resilience, I think that comes into play because you'll want to be staying in fights a bit longer than might feel comfortable, so you can land more crits and get your throwing knife charged up. And also, if your recovery feels a little too low, you are on solar, so you could always toss on a healing grenade. I know, controversial. Now, what's more, if you can stay in fights just a little bit longer thanks to that high resilience, you might be able to pull off getting a kill with your Smite of Merain, which is the other thing I really love pairing with this build because of this role right here, Swashbuckler and Pugilist, a match made in heaven. Pugilist gives you 10% of your melee back for every one of your primary kills and 20% back for every special weapon, and then Swashbuckler gives your weapon a 33% damage boost at ×5 stacks, which makes Smite of Merain absolutely melt your opponents, especially considering it can almost 2-burst these days. With this recent damage boost in the patch, it's just even more forgiving and more deadly. But anyway, as you can see, there's a really nice interaction here where you're getting plenty of melee energy back from your high strength, armor mods, and Pugilist, and then every time you land a melee kill with one of those knives, your Smite of Merain is charged up and becomes an absolute death stick. And then this cycle just continues, and it's a nice loop. Also, while we're talking about Smite of Merain, I just want to briefly recommend a few more things about the roll before we go further. Smite of Merain is sitting at a perfect 70 recoil direction at base. I feel like it's just begging to have Arrowhead Break applied to it, which adds 30 recoil direction, making a recoil almost perfectly vertical and extremely easy to control, so you can win more duels and focus on other stuff besides recoil during your fights. After you've chosen Arrowhead Break, I personally prefer a range masterwork and accurize rounds, but since that only pushes your your effective range out by a few meters, there is a strong argument to choosing higher handling so you can ADS faster and swap to your shotgun more quickly, or to just go more stability for even easier recoil control and to make your aim assist cone recover more quickly, and then you can resist flinch better. In that same vein, choosing steady rounds is a great choice not only for the added stability, but for the increased aerial effectiveness, which you can actually get pretty high on Smite of Merain. So I think going high stability on Smite of Merain with steady rounds is perfectly viable. Anyway, at the end of the day, in my opinion, all you really need to try here is Swashbuckler and Pugilist, and Arrowhead Break too. And beyond that, I think it's personal preference. Okay, next up, I would like to say that I too, like Glow and Cammy, enjoy staying out of the quote-unquote zone of bullshit, which is about 10 meters or so, where all the most annoying things, often connection-related, are rampant. If you keep your distance from people and just use your pulse rifle, you're much less likely to die to melee rubber banding and shotgun apes and plenty of other frustrating things. However, this also means you won't be spending as much time within 15 meters of enemies where you can recharge your knife instantly by dodging with Gambler's Dodge. Because of this, and since I'm using a pulse rifle, I've actually had a better time pairing this build with Acrobat's Dodge instead of Gambler's Dodge, because you can just give yourself a 10% damage boost, so your pulse rifle, whichever one you choose, can just kill much more easily. Now, I said whichever one you choose because I do want to bring this up. You don't need to choose Smite of Merain to make this build work. You can choose any pulse rifle or even an auto rifle or a scout rifle or an SMG as long as it fires quickly enough. That's the beauty of Athrys' Embrace. Now, I do think Smite of Merain is the best choice for snowballing with this build because of the Pugilist and Swashbuckler combo. Not to mention, you can craft this thing so you don't need RNG, and it's a 390 RPM pulse, which is just kind of a fun, newly buffed thing to try out. However, you can really make this build work with any long-range weapon that can land crits quickly, and one of the best weapons for that is our old friend Vigilance Wing. V-Wing is great for so many reasons, like the health back when your allies die, or the buff stats when you're the last person standing, or just the stat package, which is nice, but just the fact alone that V-Wing shoots a 5-bullet burst and is relatively easy to control makes it perfect for an Athrys build. Not to mention, its high range will help you stay out of the zone of bullshit. V-Wing is also probably a somewhat better choice if you're in a 3v3 competitive PvP situation where getting a single kill kind of means you've already won the engagement, so you often want something that's really good up front like V-Wing, rather than good after a kill like Smite of Merain. That said, with the right stats and plenty of acrobat dodging or empowering rift usage, you could pretty much make any pulse rifle, particularly Smite of Merain, work wonders with this build even in competitive PvP. Anyway, whichever pulse rifle you choose, I think the best way to play this build is this rotation. First, just land a few crits with your Smite of Merain, and don't even go for a kill necessarily, just get the strengthened throwing knife perk and then throw your first knife. You'll probably get a kill, so then you should immediately re-challenge with your Smite of Merain because it'll be charged up to ×5 Swashbuckler and it'll chew someone to pieces. Try to keep the train rolling by going for more kills with your Smite of Merain or more kills with a special weapon with Pugilist, and then use your healing grenade if you quickly need more health. Once you lose Swashbuckler, pop your Acrobat's Dodge to proc your double outreach mods on your class item and get some melee energy back, and then re-challenge with your Smite of Merain while you have Radiant from your dodge, which will give your pulse rifle the upper hand once again. Throughout all of this, any kills you're getting are giving you 10% melee energy thanks to Pugilist, and your 100 strength is quickly recharging your knife again, so pretty darn quickly you should be on to your next knife. This gameplay loop will give you plenty of goofy, bouncy tracking knives and should give you the upper hand in most of your primary duels too. I'd keep a shotgun in your back pocket if you're forced into the zone of bullshit and want some defense, and finally probably a heavy weapon with threat detector just because it's helpful to have that information once in a while, or nice if you opt for a Gambler's Dodge over Acrobats. All in all, I think this Smite of Merain Athrys build is a genuinely good choice for competitive PvP, but also is just so unique and fun that it gives you a breath of fresh air. It's that perfect balance of effective yet relaxing, and I hope you give it a shot. Alright, have fun out there, and thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, you can support me on Patreon or by subscribing so you don't miss episode 2 of this series. Speaking of fun, if you particularly enjoy Void Warlock in PvP, I think you might enjoy my video on the best Warlock Void 3.0 PvP builds, so that's up next. Cheers and see you in the next one.